think we can start. You may join.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Amit Gautam. I'm chair of INCOLD Young Professional Forum and board with ICOLD Young Professional Forum. Today we are joined with our eminent speaker, Dr. P.L. Patel, who is professor. His mic. I would request everyone to please mute.
Amit, you are on mute.
Okay, am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes.
So hello everyone. I'm Amit Gautam. I'm chair of INCOLD Young Professionals Forum and also with ICOLD Young Professional Forum at the board. Today we have a very relevant topic of webinar that we have organized for you all in association with ICOLD Young Professional Forum. The webinar will be delivered by our eminent speaker, Dr. P.L. Patel, who is of course professor at SVNIT Surat. More about sir later. So before we get started with the main topic, I would like to invite Amateya for her introduction about ICOLD Young Professional, what we do globally, what we do nationally also, and how you all can be associated with us. With your permission, Amateya, can you please take on the floor? And just after 3-4 minutes, we'll start the webinar. To you, Amateya.
Thank you, Amit. So hello to everyone. Yes, I will just briefly explain how young professionals are incorporated within the ICOLD. So this information contains just some practical information about our network. So we were initiated in the year 2009 when the idea started. Our first meeting happened in the year 2011. So we are now already active for 11 years. And regarding the chairs, we are now, let's say, the 5th generation of the young professionals. Our vision and our mission is that we are targeting young professionals in the early careers, namely those who are under 40 years old. So we are trying to provide networking opportunities for knowledge transfer, opportunities to connect and to share experiences. And we are very active at aiming to the young professionals to encourage to become active within ICOLD, for example, on a national level, also to get involved in the technical committees where a lot of the knowledge is hidden. Well, it's not hidden, it's on plain sight. And basically it's just on us to get involved, to get the transfer, to get the knowledge from the older generations to us so that we'll be able to go on all the future challenges that are waiting for us. For now, 32 countries have formed their national young professional networks. They're all very active. We are trying to get other nations to do similarly, since there is over 100 ICOLD member countries, so there is still a lot of room for improvement on that area. The board consists of 7 people. Here you can see all of the representatives just from the latest elections that happened a few months ago. So me and Amit are one of the members of the board, and there are 5 others. We try to be diverse so that every region of ICOLD is represented, and we try to include the representative from the country that next one is organizing an ICOLD conference. So the term of office for us is 3 years. And 1 member per country is allowed, and all of the members are voted and have to be nominated by the national committees on their first nomination. So a little bit about our activities. We are very active at ICOLD annual conferences. We are involved in the workshops. We have our own meeting, our own social evening. We every year also invite distinguished presenters to have a keynote speeches at ICOLD conference at our meeting. And we are also now involved in gender diversity and inclusion technical committees. Then during the year, we try to be active online. So we are again inviting distinguished speakers to be hosted in webinars like this one today. And these webinars then remain posted online and can be accessed and watched also if you missed it in live. So these are the links for all the webinars. We have a YouTube channel. If you want to find us, just write in the browser Young Professionals YouTube and you'll find us. And I will just conclude by inviting everyone to get involved. Even you can be actively involved, or you can just basically follow us and try to learn something new or something that will benefit in your career. Thank you. With this, I would conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Matea. Thank you so much. So with this, I would like to invite before I invite our speaker, just have an announcement for everyone. We'll have an interesting Q&A session after the webinar. So if you have any question that you feel to ask, do drop in the message box, or you can hold yourself till the end and we can hear the answer from the speaker. So Dr. Patel is professor of Hydraulics and Water Resource Department and Civil Engineering of SVNIT Surat. He did his bachelor's from Government Engineering College, Rewa, Madhya Pradesh, then pursued his master's and PhD from IT Roorkee. He has more than 220 peers reviewed papers in journals and conference of repute. He has been also instrumental in setting up of Center of Excellence of Water Resource and Flood Management in the Institute with the help of World Bank. My introduction would always be shorter, sir, so I would like to call you straight away for the webinar and brief us about this very interesting topic of relevant in this monsoon. So the floor is to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like to share my slides, and I will start.
Please, sir.
So my slide is visible?
Absolutely, sir. You can make.
It is not there, I think. Yes, I will share another slides.
It has.
This is okay.
It has disappeared, sir. Can you reshare it?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Share in. Yes. So my slide is visible now?
Yes. Can you make it to the full screen, sir?
Yes. It's fine? Absolutely
fine, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So very good afternoon all. Particularly Mr. Amit Gautam and Ms. Mateja Klun, who are there as a chair and called Young Professional Fellow. That is a team, and then we have all the experts in the area, dignitaries, and my participants who are present from India or across the globe. So basically, at the outset, I would like to thank Young Professional Fellows team for inviting me for this particular talk. And the talk which I'm going to present over here is contributed by myself and my PhD student, Mr. Shubham Jipkate, research scholar, and my colleague, Dr. P.V. Timbadia, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering of the SVNIT Surat. So basically, first of all, in this particular presentation, I would like to talk about a little about the flood scenario, because today if we talk about the complete India, in fact, I'm talking about completely reeling with this flood. Almost 50% area of geographical area of the country is under the flooding at this moment of time. So we'll take few minutes for explaining about the floods, what kind of floods are there, and how these floods are basically aggravating with time, particularly with changing climate and as well as these anthropogenic changes. So they are the major aspect of this flooding. And also we will give some data that all across the globe related to the flooding. And then we will come directly to this about this flood hazard assessment. And I will go with two approach. One, we have calculated the parameters using 1D, 2D coupled model. And the second one, we will discuss that this calculation of these parameters using this your 2D model completely. So, and also I have introduction or you can say brief about the study area. So I have taken a study area which is very relevant and of course flooded in the past frequently, and that is the Surat city in India, and it is one of the coastal belt of this our country. So let's start with. So if we talk about the flooding, so one aspect we are river flooding. River flooding, of course, it is common from the inception, but recently this river line flood is getting aggravated because of this your spatio-temporal variation of the rainfall. If you talk about the spatial, I'm talking about in certain areas. If you talk about in the country today, you have the huge rainfall and the huge flooding is there, but you find that on the other hand, at some places, you don't have the flood or rainfall itself. So the spatial variation of this rainfall, that is one of the major cause, and temporal. Temporal rainfall, I mean the rainfall is occurring in a very short period of time, that flash flood kind of thing. And if you see that this river line flood, particularly in Delhi flood, if you talk about today, even the Delhi is reeling with the floods. So huge rainfall is taking place in the mountainous area like Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. Huge rain are taking place over the huge quantity of water and silt is coming from there, and ultimately it is you find that in the your Yamuna river, and you find that complete water and silt coming into the river bed, and you find the river bed is seems to be having like muddy water, and the huge your this flood inundation is taking place. So that is a kind of river line flood getting huge problem. If we say the data in the this your in Delhi, the flood marks have increased or surpassed 1978 water levels. So these are there. You have similarly you have other kind of flash flood, as you know. So you can say that river line flood of Delhi have become due to this flash flood of this your hilly area, that is Uttarakhand. And similarly we have the man-made flood. So man-made flood and natural floods, like this kind of floods which are happening at the moment of time in Uttarakhand, Himachal, they are natural flood. But man-made flood is like you have already rear wire, and if you have some problem in you can say operation of the gates of the rear wire, and if you create some problem, so that can become a kind of man-made flood. So for example, your Surat flood, if you talk about in 2006, that happens, and that kind of that man-made flood. So that is the major issue. If you talk about the flooding, it could be natural flood, man-made flood. Now, apart from this river line flood, another aspect is like you have this coastal flood. Now, if you talk about the storm surge are very frequently, and they are having the extremes. They are aggravating with time. If you talk about the Arabian flood, Arabian storm surge. Earlier, Arabian Sea was quite calm and quiet. But if you see very recently, in very recent times, huge with time.
Okay.
Now, the second aspect, we talk about this urban flooding. urban flooding, if you have a lot of changes are taking place, a lot of expansion of the urban area is coming up, the water is not able to absorb in this your ground, and you find that excessive flood is coming. So that is a kind of your urban flooding is there. Similarly, pluvial flooding. Nowadays, if you see in Gujarat and other places, they in complete river, complete the roads and all other infrastructure are flood, having the huge quantity of water, and like river is there, but there is no river as such. So those kind of pluvial flooding are there. So meaning is only that time not to talk about this climate change and changes in the anthropogenic activities are playing the major roles to having the flooding with time, and that is increasing more, frequently with in a recent time. Now, if you talk about this is the global scale, if we talk about this flooding, population exposed in the flooding, if you talk about, so you see here in India, if you talk about this northern part, talk about of the India is completely, having the very, 23 to 98% are exposed in this part of the northern India flooding, and similarly that is happening in the other parts of the country and also across the globe. And similarly, if talk global scenario, having all kind of your this disasters, if you see floods is playing the major role, that is 44%. And on the other hand, the storm surge is 28%, and then earthquake and other disasters are there. So these are few statistics I want to present over here. China and India, if you talk about, they are having the huge flooding problems, and you see that 20 events occurring every year for the China and 17 for the India, and that is the situation for both the countries, and both the countries are having huge populations, so they are most affected the countries if you talk about in terms of the flood. Similarly, see these kind of flooding, Kerala flood if you talk about, huge, to now 2018 there was severity in the flooding, and you can say huge infrastructure and lives were affected in the Kerala. Similarly, Hyderabad flood in 2020, that is kind of urban flooding. Of course, it is having the huge rainfall. Similarly, flood in the recent part, I'm talking about the same thing which I've talked about, or your this northern India floods which have come up, and it is going on at this moment of time. Now, if this is the another scene of Himachal Pradesh, and you can see here is represented with through photograph at this of Times of India, and this is another news which is reflected for the flood monsoon, wherein Delhi flood which we have talked very recently. Now, they have devastating flood, landslide, claimed huge lives in the Himachal Pradesh. So, as I've told you, landslides is supporting the flooding. In fact, when they come into the river bed, their bed level will rise, and then huge flooding is, expected for such kind of situation. Then this is the Hyderabad flood that I've already talked about. And then this Yamuna River flood, we already talked about. Now, if you talk about the coastal area, that is the, again, major important point which I'm talking about. If you talk about by 2025, that kind of, estimated there from UNESCO, and if you see the population living within 200 kilometers from the coast is expected to be 75% by 2025. This kind of estimate is there, and such kind of regions are affected by this due to this rapid urbanization, poor drainage system, and also the sea level rise, and of course this is storm surges, like you have cyclones and all those things. So under such situation, this is the, of course, again I have given the different flooding situations which have happened at different parts of the country, and I'm talking about in India only. But here we talk about this, I'm talking Surat city. Here Surat city, if you talk about here, you can see we have 1978 flood, 1979, 1998, 2006, 2013, 2022. Huge flooding is there in this in this region. So that is why we have taken this particular part for this floods. So I'm just talking about if you want to address this flood. So in that case, for such kind of cities, we require to develop this flood hazard model, and you have then subsequently vulnerability maps we should have for those cities, and of course we have to have the calculation of flood risk. So knowing the flood risk that for particular city area, which are of course subjected to those your riverine flood and of course this your coastal flooding. Under such situation, we must know the parameter of depth, velocity, and duration, and then we can make the estimation through hydrodynamic model for flood hazard. Then subsequently we can have vulnerability of those kind of cities, and then finally we have arrived. We should arrive this your flood risk maps. If we have the flood risk maps, we can that would help to the authority of the city, and they can just restrict the development in those kind of area where we have the high flood risk. And also people should also know that these areas are subjected to high flood risk, and under those conditions we can have the controlled development for city, so that the such kind of damages can be avoided. And also if we have flood risk, and then that would help in the management of this flooding situations, how to move the people to go at safe place during the flooding condition. If such kind of details are quantified in this kind of flood management model, that would be very, very helpful. So in this particular presentation, we are talking about only the flood hazard, and then of course we'll talk about this vulnerability and flood risk map later, because due to availability of the time. Now the flood hazard we talk about, we can have, I'm talking about, you can have the flood in different category, H1, H2, and H6, and that is given by Cox-Stoll in 2010, and that criteria we can identify for this flood depth. So the high flood depth increases the buoyancy force, reduces the friction under the foot, leads to the sliding or tumbling of the person, whereas high velocity causes the instability. So depth and velocity parameter first we have discussed about, and both these parameters are playing very important role in deciding the flood hazard. And third parameter also I will talk about the next, that 3-parameter model, that is the duration of the flooding. That is another important points which is there, and that should also be taken care in quantifying the flood hazard. Now, if we talk about this, we have the hazard for the vehicle. So these are the criteria for different kind of vehicles, and how to determine their stability. So this is the criteria given by this your et al. 2016, and also we have the similarly we can have this your combined flood hazard, and wherein we can have the hazard for building, hazard for this people, hazard for this your vehicle, and that you can combine together, and that will come from this particular your plot, and that is given by Smith et al. In 2014. So here we can have H1, we can have H2, and then H3, H4, H5, and H6, and what kind of the extent of damages would be there for which kind of infrastructure, that is already explained over here. So Smith et al. Criteria we can use for making such kind of estimation. Now we can see here, this is the given the criteria for this combined flood hazard classification given by Smith et al. 2014. Now I'm just taking that case study area for this, and now you can see this is the part of India, and we can have this is the Tapi Basin. So in Tapi Basin, you can have 65,000 square kilometer area if we talk about, and this is the middle upper Tapi Basin, and thus we can have middle Tapi Basin, and in between we have this coast, this your Ukai reservoir if you talk about here. So the enlarged view of this part, that is the lower Tapi Basin, is shown over here, and here the Ukai reservoir is there. So if any operation of Ukai reservoir is having some issue, or at the end of September, you have extensive rainfall in this upper part of this your catchment, so you can have a huge water available, and we don't have the storage space to control it, and you could have a certain release, and then you can get the problem of flood in the Surat city. So the details of the Surat city, if we talk about it, is already mentioned over here. Is Surat city. So you can have in the Surat city huge, population around at this stage. I'm talking about having the population around your 65 lakhs, and you can have this complete Surat city is having this your 7 zones at this moment of time, and you can see this is the this longitudinal section of this your Tapi river. So the Tapi river is the major river which is passing through the city, and at the end of this city we have the Arabian Sea. So these tidal levels are there present due to this Arabian Sea, and then the releases from the Ukai reservoir, and that causes, you can say, the extensive flooding in past, and that is what we thought to take this particular area for making our estimation of this hazard, flood hazard. Now, few things more about talk about in this Surat city. If you talk about Surat city, with time due to huge urbanization, the condition of the Surat city, if you talk about in 1968, for 43,000, this and 89 meter cube per second. If you talk about the water level in the Surat city was 12.08 meter. But if we talk about in 2006, even 34,122, and that is 25,000, you can say 25,768, you can say, which water which came into the Surat city, that causes the flood maybe around this 12.4. So you can see August 6, 1968, when there was no Ukai Dam, that water came into Surat city, and 12.08 meter was the water level in Surat city. But if you talk about you have this 25,768 water after Ukai Dam construction, and that causes the same thing, 12.4. So even a small flood was there, relatively small flood was there in 2006. That causes same water level. On the other hand, if you have huge quantity of water coming, and then you had the same water level 12.08 meter. So meaning is that due to huge urbanization and some encroachment of the floodplain, this carrying capacity of the Tapi river is decreasing in Surat city, and due to having the lesser carrying capacity, the flood hazard is increasing. This flood risk is increasing in the Surat city. So this is the statement given et al. In 2007, that a reduction in the safe carrying capacity of the Tapi river in Surat city is just 11,320 meter cube per second, but original capacity when the dam was constructed was 24,000. So you can see that even 50% reduction in the capacity of the Surat city in the Tapi river is there in the Surat city. So these are the some significant point of the Surat city, the fast growing city in the world, and having the huge industrialization, textile trade, diamond cutting, polishing, etc. is there. Huge employment opportunity is there. We have one Kakrapar atomic power station present in the downstream of Ukai reservoir, and that is a very important aspect that we have to take care. And in 2006 flood, we had 21,000 crores damage to the society of the Surat city. And even in fact that was affected whole country I'm talking about, because huge, the economy of the whole country is being dependent on the Surat city being industrial city, and 150 lives of people were lost in the Surat city flood in 2006. So this is a very significant city, and having all those kind of situations. So we have taken this. This is the year 2006 flood in Surat city. See, this is the few photographs. This is our maps, Swaminarayan Mandir. You can see that this is looking like a complete lake is there surrounded by this. So, and this is, you can see all these good photographs we have, and also we have the typical hospitals completely flooded with water. So this kind of situation is there. Now, how to make the flood hazard assessment? So I have told you that we have to develop one 2D coupled model, so that we can calculate the related parameter for flood hazard. We have this your depth and velocity, I've told you, and of course we have the time period also. For first instance, we have taken about this two-parameter model, that is depth and velocity. So this is the complete methodology. So we have fitted the flood frequency distribution for the Ukai inflow into the Ukai reservoir, and then we have found that this is log normal distributions was fitting the best, and we had obtained the floods of different return periods, and we've seen that 2006 flood was having a return period of 100 years. So this is the your upstream boundary conditions. We have this is the your Mike 11 we have in fact used for this calibration of the Tapi River, and then we have taken this Mike 2 for this floodplain area, and then we have coupled both the models 1D, 2D, and then we have obtained this more complete model, and then we have assessed the probability. I mean, performance of the model using the past floods, and then we have tried to develop the multi-parameter flood hazard maps for defining the stability of the people, vehicle, and building. So as told you, these are the data we have used for estimation of this different parameters. Different data we have from the Surat Municipal Corporation. This is the municipality, and also we have the data related with land use, land cover. We have other hydraulic data and related to the dam, and you have also the tidal levels for Arabian Sea. So this kind of distributions we have fitted, and we have obtained the floods of different return periods, and subsequently we have to make the estimation for this flood hazard for different return periods. So this is the performance simulation of 1D, 2D model. So we have 1998 floods, and this is the your upstream boundary condition. This is the downstream boundary condition, tidal levels, and similarly we have for 2006 flood, upstream boundary condition, downstream boundary conditions, and these are the water levels in the Surat city. That is the one place that called that is Nehru Bridge. So that is there, and Ghala also. So this is for Ghala, that is upstream of your Surat city, and this is your Nehru Bridge, that in the Surat city. So we can have this scatter plot also for the performance of the model. Then similarly, we have all the data we have. Fortunately, we have the data for 2006 flood, and then we have tried to estimate the observed flood and simulated floods, and we could see that we have the 0.89 as a root mean square error for 1D, 2D coupled model for combined all zones, and this is the scatter plot for this your floodplain. You can see that quite good performance of this model is there. So from the model, then we have prepared the flood inundation map, and then from flood inundation map at different points we have depth and velocity, and subsequently we have estimated this flood hazard. I have discussed different parameters how to estimate this flood hazard. So this is the flood inundation map we have prepared for 2 years return period, and 5 and 100 and 250. So these are the your flood inundation map for different return periods. So this is your then flood hazard we have prepared for safety of the people. This is your then you can see that though you can have H1 to H6, that is the flood hazard types, and you can see that for 100 years return period, that is 2006 flood, we can have 10.2% area of the Surat city is flooding under the this flood hazard of S6 category, and similarly for others. So you can have this return periods and their contribution of different areas for this of different kind of your hazard. Similarly, you can say I have told you that already 100 years return period, that is for Ukai reservoir, Ukai flood, 2006 flood, we have 19.7% area coming under H5 and 6. So this is your flood hazard for stable vehicle. Then combined flood, we have this stable your vehicle, and then we can have combined general flood hazard maps. Considering both vehicle, we have your people, we have buildings, and then we had this combined flood as per this Smith et al. So you can see that the area in particular affected in severe S3, H4, and very severe hazard classes are identified since they are dangerous and can cause your the damage to the people and other infrastructure. More convenience in the case of 100 years flood, 14.1% of flooded area is under very high, very severe hazard class, which is unable for the stability of the people, vehicle, and even all building types. So you can see here all these kind of categories. So these are final typical flood hazard maps for these combined situations, and their distributions of for different return periods. This your different kind of your severity. Then similarly, we can go with case study 2. We have completely taken these 2D hydrodynamic models, and for 2D hydrodynamic models, I've told you that your flood inundation model is prepared based on this 2DSD model, and we have taken it this time not only depth and velocity, but here we have taken depth, velocity, and time period. That is for your this hazard. How much time we have, Dr. Viraj? Still to go? Or Mr.
Yes, sir.
Gautam?
Yes, sir. We do have time. We do have 15 minutes more.
Okay. So here we can have this 2DSD model. I've told you earlier also that in case of the previous one, this particular paper has been published in this natural hazard, and this is the your complete details are available. So if you want to go in details, we can use this reference, and that is their flood hazard assessment for the coastal urban floodplain using 1D, 2D coastal hydrodynamic models, and that is the coupled hydrodynamic model, and that is natural hazard. So this is there already, publication is there. Now the second part which we have considered 2DSD model. So this particular paper is published in a very high impact factor journals, and that is multi-parameter flood hazard, socio-economic vulnerability, and flood risk assessment for densely populated coastal city in Journal of Environment and Management. So that we published very recently in the last month, I think. So this is there. So this is again the same methodology. Of course, I've already given over there in the previous case study. Here we have taken this your performance wise, we have already directly gone to due to not availability of time. So Nehru Bridge, if you talk about, this is the kind of performance. So this performance is much better as we compare the previous performance of 1D, 2D coupled model. So better the model, better would be the prediction for your flow parameters. And if we have the better flow parameter, we can develop the better model. So here you can say this is a very nice your comparison of your this RMSE and root square error. So this is the performance for all the 7 zones we have combined for this your simulated water depth, and this is observed water depth, this scatter plot. Then we can have this flood inundation. You can see here flooded area for your 50 years, 100 years, 10 years. So this 100 years return period, you can say only 86.5% of the total city area was under the flooding, and you can say only 13.5% area was there, without the flood, and that is free of this water. So you can imagine that the quantum of flood we are having in 2006 flood. This is 100 years flood, and now you can see the area inundated. That is complete details are available. So you can have for 100 years return period, and maybe other also. We have estimated for others also, but you can see 100 years return period. This is a multi-parameter flood hazard found. You can again say this kind of flood hazard estimation. So here when we talk about how we have classified the hazard class, so we have a very low, medium, high, and very high. And under what conditions these situations would be there? So you can have D, depth of flow. We have this is your flux of your this discharge per unit width, so dV, and this flood duration T hours. So if this is the kind of situation, then we can have this very low flood. Then we have low flood. This range is there. So with this we have made the estimation for different category of this severity of the flood in terms of the flood hazard. And if you can see here, the return period floods we can have here again for 5 years return period, 200 for 100 years return period. If we talk about 25.6%, you can 25.6% of the area, if you talk about, is there under this your very high your flood hazard condition. So is there in the Surat city, and that was existing during 2006 flood. So similarly for others, you can say the flood hazard severity. Then similarly we have this 2D HD model. So this is there. So just what are the main crux of this particular these maps. So while comparing the 2D 2-parameter model, 3 parameters which we have covered earlier, so we can see an increase in the total area under high to very high hazard classes were observed in the former case. So if you consider 3D model, you are considering more area in the under very high hazard classes. So you can say 3-parameter model is much better. This indicates that significant influence of third parameter, that is the duration of the flood inundation, is determining the extent of the flood hazard. So you can say this duration of the flood that aids into the estimation of your flood hazard. So this is an important point that I wanted to make, it that we have to consider a third parameter. Most of the studies across the world, they have taken 2-parameter model, but this third parameter, that the duration of the flood, has to be considered in making the estimation of this flood hazard. So that is also very important. So please refer this paper for detailed calculations and estimation of flood risk. Of course, it is in the flood risk, but it has very nice estimation of this our your socioeconomic this flood hazard we have, this socioeconomic vulnerability we have, and also these flood risk. So complete details are over there. So this similarly, how this our critical infrastructure will be affected, or what kind of how much percentage of this your severity of this hazard is there. So out of 290 government schools and 172 hospitals, 44.5% schools and 52.9% hospitals are in the high to very high hazard category. So the location and the flow parameter decides the situation of this kind of your hospitals. Similarly, we can have this your water and sewage treatment plants, and we have similarly this your 50 slum points are marked for of the 55% are located within the very high hazard regions, and they are mostly affected because they don't have time, or I can say space to move it out, and they are affected mostly. So these are few findings which I want to make over here from this first your this 1D 2D models, and of course we have taken 2D HD model. So in summary, we can say the flood hazard maps identify the stability of the people are based on the relationship between the height and mass of the individuals, maximum tolerable value of the product of depth and velocity. During 100 years return period flood, that is your 34,459 meter cube per second, that flood was there in basically Ukai inflow into Ukai reservoir. We presume that this flood comes into Ukai reservoir in the September month, and we don't have the space to store the water in the Ukai and complete water release in the downstream side. So 23.63% flooded area is under threat of the significant to extreme hazard for all the healthy adults, mainly concentrated over the west and northwest zone. That is what are mostly affected in this Surat city. Nearly 40% of the total flooded area is under significant hazard to children requiring special attention during the evacuation. For 100 years return period flood, the 27.4% of the flooded area is dangerous for the people of large this 4-vehicle drive composed computed based on the D and V, that is your discharge intensity, and that is there. So the vehicle stability index based on the physical characteristics of the vehicle flow characterizes the determines the floating over the flooding area. So due to this your buoyancy, during the 100 years return period flood, vehicle instability caused by floating is experienced in over the 90% of the area. affecting both small and large cars. More than 85% flood area is safe or under low hazard for buildings. For building, that kind of flood hazard aspect was not that severe. However, the rehabilitation is required for the small houses and small light frames structure located in the high area. So, and then in the combined, flood hazard measures we have during 110 period flood. So these details are already discussed, but the area which is very important to consider is that specifically the west zone, north zone, and regions near the Kanker Creek are basically the under severe hazard zones. And similarly, we have flood hazard assessment. Told you in flood hazard 2DSD model, better computation of the flow parameters were there, so hence we resulted the better estimation, and of course by considering this your third parameter, that is the time period. So thank you very much for this nice time and opportunity for giving such kind of talk and interacting with people. Thank you very much. So our acknowledgement with there with these your Ministry of Government of India who have sanctioned this particular project on impact of climate change and water resources of Tapi Basin. That is project. Now Central Water Commission, we have Surat State Water Data Centers, SWDC, Civil Circle, Surat Irrigation Circle, and also Surat Municipal Corporation for giving the assistance in terms of the data availability. And we are all thankful to the Center of Excellence on Water Resources and Flood Management, which was sanctioned and established under the Take It 2 and Take It 3 grant. So thank you very much. Thank you. So if you have any kind of queries are there that we can discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for enlightening us on this very valid topic. Very, I can say, a monsoon special topic, especially in India. And I would like to, this problem of flooding, urban flooding, is very common worldwide. And this reminded me of two great examples that we have built in the terms of Sardar Sarovar Dam and Tehri. They are perfectly boon for India and the population living in the downstream. We cannot be more than much thankful to these two projects. And I think this building large reservoirs, dams to control the urban flooding is one such solution also, on which India and Central Water Commission are also working very hard. World is also working. I would like to start with the question. So historically, we have found, the civilization, especially when it comes to India, Harappan, Indus Valley, everything. We like to live very nearby to the floodplains, very near to the rivers, And with the modern encroachment things coming in place, it is just impossible to take the population away from the rivers. With climatological behavioral change, as if I'm not wrong, if CWC's data is to be believed, the number of rainy days has decreased in India, but the volume remains same. So combining all these things, are we also working on some data-driven models, machine learning? Are we combining something to predict these floods much more in advance, with the neural networks or the numerical models? Are we also working on these? I mean, of course we would be, but just enlighten us more about these
yes,
models.
in fact, we are planning to just have the working in on this area of early warning system. Basically, the Surat city is more frequently famous for this flooding and infamous for flooding, I can say. So this Surat city is coming a huge kind of flood. We can say almost 1 in 4 years kind of thing. So we are thinking for developing early warning system for Surat city. So as you said very correctly, that if machine learning kind of algorithm is there, and if we can develop, this, you take the data from the radar or from the good reliable, satellites. So
yes,
taking the data in advance for 2-3 days, and then having the your telemetry stations, and using those hydrological model, of course, are robust, or if you can these machine learning tools. So we can make the prediction into Ukai reservoir that you say here, and getting in advance this Ukai reservoir prediction, we can release the water in advance. So slowly and slowly, so that you can put the people at safe places without much kind of problem. So I said that of course those complete machine learning algorithm cannot replace totally this machine learning these your hydrological models. We can have hybrid kind of thing. We can have this machine learning kind of algorithms for making the info prediction and running these hydrological models for the lower part, and we can tell the people that this kind of situation is coming in the Ukai reservoir and can save the people and property in the your Surah city part. So this is very much common, but we have to work from the all fields, not only the hydrology, maybe from the people who are working the machine learning. So thank you very much. So this is, I think, the best solution to go with the hybrid ways.
Yes, sure. So thank you for your answer. Anybody else? Just checking the chat box. Viraj, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Due to some connections issue, I put off my video. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time. And I have one question that some of the people are from in this lecture from the field also, like superintending engineer from Central Water Commission, as well as from some of the BBMB people are in this. So recently, government of India uh, there is an act, Dam Safety Act, implemented, and how this case study will be useful and how we can get the data from various sources, so that if you enlighten on that particular part from this agency, we will get the data, because there are so many data as you explained required for this study. So how we can get the data from various sources and how much efforts are required to align such kind of study for various dams, because we have many dams, about 30-40% dams are age old, about 50 years. So if you can explain about that particular, so people can understand more about the such kind of studies.
So thank you very much for this very apt question. Basically, we talk about on this particular your Ukai reservoir and Surah city, and even in fact the Tapi basin, we have worked since last 12-13 years, and with time we have collected data from Central Water Commission, we have collected data from state water data center, we have collected from different state government agency like your dam authority of Ukai and Surat. So, and also this your upstream part, that is called Maharashtra, irrigation circle and TIDC and all those things. So we have, with time we have collected the data, and that data is now helping us to develop such kind of model. Of course, this Central Water Commission itself, they have taken the lead to develop or erect these telemetry stations, I think 4 or 5 years back, and now they are in fact planning to just test out those telemetry stations. So those telemetry stations will be very, very useful if you want to develop the early warning system for making the prediction in the Ukai reservoir, and of course from Ukai reservoir, how to make the releases in the downstream area to have this safe flooding in the downstream part. So I think the combined effort from this Central Water Commission, of course, and then state government agencies, and come with this combined data and make the suitable development model to your this, as you tell that this your Dam Safety Act should be followed for as far the releases in the downstream area is concerned. So this is there, and data availability, yeah, of course at this stage having some issue, but of course in future if some concerted effort is there from all sides, that is very, very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another question from one of the participants, that what is the how this hazard data will be useful for the risk and vulnerability assessment?
So I told you that before computing the flood risk is the final. So before going to the flood risk, we have to have estimation of flood hazard, and then we have to develop the flood this vulnerability map of respective area like the Surat city. So this is simply the product of this your flood hazard and your vulnerability, that is finally the risk. So combining this flood hazard map with flood vulnerability, and then of course the estimation of this flood risk map. So that is a flood risk map is very useful for the planner in this your particular city like here Surat city, and of course devising the ways that how to move the people during the flooding situation, and of course the settlement of the people at different locations. That is also where you this flood risk are there. I'm talking about the global scale. If we talk about, you can say in this your in different parts of the city, with different parts of the globe, those different cities have this kind of flood risk map. So they are going insurance also. If some people are, they are going a kind of insurance for every year basis. So these flood risk maps are very useful for flood insurance also by the respective people who are dwelling over there. So that is there. Yeah.
One more question, that how we can consider here the climate change impact based
right.
on historical.
Yeah, right. This come in fact this under this project only. Still, we are in the process of making the prediction that into Ukai reservoir, particularly for future. This is for your this baseline period, but in future periods, if you see the scenario for the rainfall, so we have seen that our extremes and rainfalls are changing as far as your baseline period is concerned. So knowing the rainfall aspect for future, maybe near future, maybe distant future, we can know the input for this your hydrological model. So we can make the estimation for this Ukai reservoir, but and then you can develop such kind of maps. But still, we are in the process of completing that process for your future part. So definitely the government will do for future. We can such kind of map we can develop because we have the methodology in place. So that is not a problem. But of course, if you talk about this is for riverine flood, but if you talk about the urban flood, yeah, urban flood, if you see as on date today, your intensity, duration, frequency curve, they are getting completely got changed. If you talk about even Surat city or maybe other area like if you talk about the like Bangalore and all. So I see Bangalore, people have already done this kind of study, and we are saying that our your intensity, duration, frequency curve, which is useful in this your urban flooding, that is getting aggravated. So that would be definitely help in making this prediction of flooding, and that will aggravate the flood. So that part can be done. Yeah.
Right. Any other question from the participants?
Viraj, there are a number of questions in the comment chat box. Can you read them?
I'm not able to read. Can you?
Okay, so I'll do it. So sir, there's one question from Mr. Praveen. He wants to know. He's thanking you first for this insightful presentation, and then he wants to know whether there is any study carried out at a river basin level considering multiple dams in basin. And then the second question is how much time is required for carrying out flood hazard assessment study?
If I recall correctly, for different in a basin level and for different dams, this kind of studies are not there. Of course, for individual wise, this kind of studies are always there. Particularly, we have Chennai floods that such kind of early modeling and the results are available. So, I mean, all the dams in your this basin area that is not done completely at this stage. And the second aspect was there. What is that question?
Second question is how much time is required for carrying out?
Of course, if one have to enter into such area, so he or she has to learn completely this or hydrodynamic model. And after learning the complete your 1D model, then you have to learn 2D model, and then our 1D 2D coupled model may be the case. And then you have you can estimate this your flow property, like you have depth, velocity, and time period for the flood. And then of course those standard your methods are available for quantifying the hazard, so you can make the hazard. Then you have to learn this your vulnerability maps, how to create for different indicators are there for vulnerability indicators are there. So you have to develop the vulnerability map and then flood this. So of course a research scholar, if interest, at least 3-4 years is there for completely your in a flood your this your flood hydrodynamic model. Then you have this flood hazard, then vulnerability, and then risk. But of course, it depends upon the type of research scholar also and the effort. It could be maximum, minimum you can say 3 years, but it can go up to 4 years also, depending upon. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is.
I think Mr. Praveen is from from the field from Maharashtra. So can you enlighten us that how much time required for the field?
Oh, okay. So if he day and night he has to work on that. So can be till early also. Because he may be already you are expert in the already this hydrodynamic modeling scenario. So I think that can be taken care, and that I cannot predict that how much it take, but of course 1.5 years would be enough for all those things.
For detailed study, right?
Next question is from Dr. Sharad. He wants to know what is the contribution of Ukai releases and the free catchment below Ukai in the flooding of Surat city, maybe from data of 2006. And there is one more question on Ukai. I'll read it. It is from Ram Singh Rajput sir. Do you think flooding in Surat city is only the reason for releasing water from Ukai Dam, or not estimating adding the catchment discharges due to urban heavy rainfall to Tapi Basin? What is your point of view? So, interesting question.
Dr. Sharad, questions, I have to repeat one by one. Dr. Sharad,
yes, sir.
What was the...
Okay, so he wants to know what is the contribution of Ukai releases and the free catchment below Ukai in the flooding of Surat city.
I think we have not included that the lower part, I mean the lower Tapi Basin as such in this model, or particularly 1D, 2D. But we have included in 2D SD model, that completely we have included. So I think for this lower part, if we talk about, I think 15% around was the contribution. It depends upon the type of releases. If you have high releases, the contribution of the lower part will be less. If the releases are less, then you can have the more contribution depending upon the rainfall in the lower part, and of course the releases from Dukai decide that how much percentage is their contribution from the lower part, but not very high, very you can say much significant contribution was there during 2006 flood. Because during 2006 flood, it was there was no rainfall in the lower Tapi Basin, so you didn't have any contribution from that lower Tapi Basin. Total was the releases from in 2006 flood. But of course, if you have the rainfall in the lower part also, lower Tapi Basin also, so in that case your contribution will increase. But we generally presume that it's 15% around in general we can have from the lower Tapi Basin vis-a-vis if good quantum of releases are there from the Ukai. It depends the type of rainfall and all those things. Okay. And what's any other question?
Another question was from Mr. Rajput. Do you think flooding in Surat city is only the reason for releasing of water from Ukai Dam, or not estimating or adding the catchment discharges due to urban heavy rainfalls to the Tapi Basin?
I think his question is very apt, and I have replied.
Yes, that's why I
majorly we consider that the Surat city is mostly affected with the releases from Ukai Reservoir in the past, but this contribution were not that significant for this lower Tapi Basin.
Okay. So one question is from Dr. Rahul. He wants to know, sir, how does silting affect the modeling? since extreme precipitation is increasing, this will result in more silting. Any comments regarding this? And he suggests that IDF with silting should result in future-proof studies. Is Dr. Rahul.
What was the previous aspect? I couldn't listen properly.
He wants to know the silting effect on the numerical modeling, since the precipitation is increasing. So how do you counter those in numerical modeling part?
Very nice question, because yes. Huge rainfall is there. I've told you that. Even I have not gone to this Delhi flood, which is going on, but huge silt is coming with the water. So yes. If huge silt comes in the water and comes in your river bed, you find that slowly river bed will rise due to this your aggradation. So if river bed level rise, then of course this inundation would be more in the surrounding area. So silting is playing very important role. In fact, if huge rainfall is there and huge landslides are there in the hilly area, and of course that is coming into the lower part where the silt is getting deposited and this water level rises. So real modeler, I think we should consider this silting aspect also during the flooding. That is very important. And what was second?
I mean, he was suggesting that IDF with silting should be.
Urban flooding, of course, this is very important nowadays because due to changing climate, this IDFs are aggravating. So more intensity, more is this flood, that is very common. So of course, that kind of study there already it is carried out. I think Professor from ISC. To study for different, this your urban areas, and they have to check out that how these IDFs are changing.
Okay, so one more question is there, sir, for you before we say thank you. So again, from Mr. Praveen, he wants to know that is there any case study of flood hazard that has been carried out with dam and without dam?
Dam and without dam. Okay.
I think there are. I am.
Studies definitely would be there, but I cannot comment on this particular topic that dam and without dam such kind of studies are there. But you have to refer the literature to see.
Yes.
Generally, it is with dam, and then people talk about. But study may be available in the literature. I cannot comment on that.
Yes. So I hope there is no more question because I cannot find anything in chat box. So with this, if you have any other question, if you get reminded of any question in future, do write to us. You can reach us on our LinkedIn page. And so with this, I would like to thank you, sir, for your great presentation. And we'd like to meet you soon in future for another series of webinar. And I'd also like to thank Patel for being there and all the participants joining us from all over India. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One more. All the parties I would kindly. Yeah. Sir, one more one point I have to add. All the participants, I would like to tell that next year INCOLD organizing the ICOLD conference in Delhi during October 20 to 24. So I would like to, on behalf of INCOLD Young Professional Forum, I would like to invite you all in that and participate actively in the conference. Yeah. Amit, please.
No, thank you so much, Raj, for doing this. And so I have nothing to say, just to thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Patel, for being there. And we'll see you soon in the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Raina.